Well, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from whichever corner of the world you are watching. And welcome to Life Hacks with Mac. I'm excited for episode 7 of this 8-part mini-series, which is absolutely flown by. With the Honorable Joel Felsenstein, founder and CEO of RockstarX, the man who has a vision about what the world should look like and is blasting a trail on the way there. So hopefully dragging a lot of us along with him. Joel, good evening, and how are you today?
Good evening, Mac. I'm good. I'm good today. Can't complain, even though it is baking in the UK at the moment. We are not used to this weather. We are not used to this weather over here. We don't know how to quite comprehend it when it gets like this. Yet when we go to other countries this is natural, this is common, we end up bracing ourselves and knowing what to expect and preparing ourselves mentally and physically for this kind of weather.
I tell you what, it's quite fascinating because if you look at the UK population, normally people are complaining. Well, in fact, it's an all year round thing about complaining about the weather. It's raining, we complain about the weather. The wind is blowing and there's some leaves on the track, we complain about the weather. There's a heat wave coming, we complain about that. There's no hot weather and it's cold and miserable and everybody wants the heat. Then we get the heat and then we complain when we get what we asked for. It's just a bizarre world we live in. But hey, you know what? The sun is shining. It's humid and muggy, but and you can see on my face. I mean, this is not my natural glow. But I'm really looking forward to this conversation this evening, about the fact that, the subject this evening is autism as unique as the person who has it. And I tell you what, I've been looking at a few kind of articles and doing some research around, trying to see what there is that's being said around the uniqueness of autism itself. And it's fascinating. I didn't know that autistic people have features. And I'm not talking about features like as in physical features, but like features like a television, like with Wi-Fi and, maybe HDMI cable and all the, like, I'm like, it's and it's so broad. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Joel, because the first time we spoke, you spoke about this specifically, and I think it's a great conversation that we should be having. So for those of you that are watching, whether you're watching this now, you're watching this later on, please let's get involved in the conversation. Don't let Joel and I hog the limelight here. Please, go into the comments, go and drop some questions, statements, anything that you feel is just kind of resonates with you or stands out and you want to share with us. Please let us know. And thank you so much for all those people that have already gone and commented. We've got let's have a look here. We've got Pam Wood. We've got Amanda Hughes. Always just dropping in some amazing comments and support. Thank you so much for being there. Zach Richard saying hello. Who else have we got? Jacqueline Scully. Thank you for joining us. Sipo Mashie saying it's his first time here. So welcome and thank you for joining us. Joseph, I've heard of Joseph before. Joel, have you heard of this Joseph guy?
Yes.
Welcome. Joseph, thank you for joining us the whole way from the Big Apple side of the world. And Jessica, and the list goes on. It's fantastic to see so many people already on here. I know people tend to kind of jump on as things get going. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. So Joel, I'm going to let you kind of set the scene and why you chose this specific topic for tonight. So I'm going to go over to you.
Well, Mac, first of all, thank you, and second of all, Joseph's talking to us, coming in from the Big Apple. I'm on a slightly smaller apple myself, and I chose the subjects I chose, Mac, mainly because they mean something to me, and I felt they resonated with me personally throughout my entire journey. This is sadly not new, and I also chose them to try and get your brain to come up with more or less more interesting questions as we went along. So every single title, I thought, right, what should I do here for Mac's brain to well, wake him up every day or week or something. And
Oh, so this is just to keep me on my toes, is it?
yeah, it's really, yeah.
Okay, well, I like it. So, as most of you would have noticed, yeah, I don't know what happened to the guy I first interviewed on Life Hacks with Mac before all of this, where the title was "The Boy with a Dream," and you know, he was this shy guy who hardly kind of wanted to say anything, and you know, I had to drag answers out of him. And now all of a sudden he's going to drag me to the stage because he just, you know, he's taken to it like a duck to water. And I tell you what, Joel, I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes with you, because you know, we're getting people from all over the world jumping in on not only these discussions but on your posts, and you know, your posts are becoming, you know, they are very Joel-esque, should I say. They are very personalized to you and unique, and they really just, you know, if you get to know, if anybody, you know, gets the opportunity to get to know Joel a bit, they literally, you know, it is Joel being Joel. He doesn't copy anybody else. He just does Joel, and this is why I really love the subject for this evening, about, you know, as unique as the person who has it. And you know, when I was looking at some of the, I just want to see if I've got some of these little things that came up with the features, but you know, there were so many different things. And when I look at it, you know, if you go onto any research, and I'm just going to put this, it's quite funny when you go onto Google as an example, and you put in autism, and you start typing, and then you get person with autism, known facts about autism, questions, spectrum disorder, autism and intelligence, autism as a disability. And it's like, you know, and we've discussed this before with regards to the disability word, where or learning difficulty. And it's like, well, actually it is a learning difficulty, but not for the autistic person. It's a learning difficulty with regards to the people teaching it, because it's as you've said, they just don't know the program and the language you're written in, and therefore they can't communicate. And it's amazing, you know. It's like, and this sounds ridiculous, but it's like, you know, somebody that's English calling anybody who speaks a different language disabled because they can't speak English. And that's how ludicrous the whole thing is. And it's like, you know, and, you know, I really would love to see one day that autism isn't seen as a disability or a learning difficulty, but it's understood as just a person who's wired differently. And it's that uniqueness that is, what's the word, embraced, as opposed to, you know, these, a lot of the as you said in the beginning, and I'm talking a lot here, but when you said at the beginning about the fact that a lot of the organizations or the support that is run for people with autism is run by people that are not necessarily autistic themselves, and therefore they're assuming what type of ways would work, and what kind of things you would like to hear and see, and how you want to be educated. But as you've said, you want to see more people that are autistic supplying that training, because it's a lot easier if you have somebody who's speaking the same language, communicating, than having that broken language barrier and that broken communication trying to get through. Because I'm still not so good with my Morse code, but that's pretty much what it's like. So what are your thoughts on that, Joel?
My thoughts are, as you were reading the results which comes up for autism, it's like society can't make up its mind as to what it is. It's either a disability or it's an ability, or it may not be either. It could be something completely different. I mean, this is not, I mean, this particular subject and several others, I'm sure, come up with this, but this subject sort of screams Monty Python.
Unfortunately, I've just read something, and I have to agree with you more than yeah.
And then you got to wonder if this is the 5-minute argument or the full half hour, or even a course of 10. I mean,
oh dear. So, when you look at that, and as you say, society hasn't quite made up its mind as to how it does, it treats this, and here's one of the things on the there's a website called Mass General Brigham, and one of the things that they've got on there is that point number 9, there is currently no medical detection or cure for autism spectrum disorder. And I'm like, oh dear, that's like saying there is currently no cure for French individuals or people who speak Spanish or any other language that you don't understand. And there is a cure, clearly, because the cure is the person who doesn't understand the autistic person that needs to be educated as to how to communicate. And that's all it is. It's just learning a different language, as far as I'm concerned. But at the same time, would you agree there are lots of different potentially dialects when you're talking to autistic people? Because how many times have you been put into a what's the word, like a cookie cutter kind of thing of people going, oh, but you don't do X, Y, Z. You can't be, or you do this, so you must be this too, or all these labels. I mean, that must be frustrating and entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, it is frustrating and entertaining. The most amusing bit of it was that when someone said to me, "You don't look autistic," I'm like, "Am I meant to be a race or something?" I mean, it's only a matter of time before society either accepts it or puts it in the same category as racist.
Yeah, I could very, very easily see that happen. And it's amazing, and we've spoken about this before when it comes to diversity and inclusion, when it comes to whether it be race, religion, the type of food you like. If that was the case, my wife and I wouldn't get on because she likes spicy stuff and I don't. I'm a wuss. So it would be like me banishing her because of the fact that she likes chilies, and it's like, okay. Where would the excitement be in life without our differences? So talk to me a little bit about the key point here being the uniqueness, because it must be really frustrating being put into the same. I'm trying to think of the words, but the same kind of description, as it were. As a whole pot of people, as opposed to realizing that there's, I mean, the spectrum is so wide. It's quite fascinating, no?
Well, I wouldn't say it's fascinating, Mike. I'd say it's if Arkham Asylum was a real place, I guarantee the people that came up with the spectrum would be in it.
Well, I think people have to live and learn, and there has to be.
In most people's cases, just live. I mean, the spectrum is large now. It's going to be getting larger as people. It should be renamed instead of the autistic spectrum. It should be renamed box of crap, which I can't be bothered learning.
Yeah, lack of knowledge, they say, is a lack of interest.
Yeah.
I'm quite fascinated by this whole thing because, having fairly, most of my life I've, and this is a generalistic term, exposed, and that sounds terrible, to neurodiversity. And in the sense that I'm a few years ago I found out that I was dyslexic, which would have made a lot more sense when I was much younger, because then I would have been able to figure things out and why I do things the way I do and write things backwards and start a sentence halfway. Anyway, all kinds of things. But and having family members that are autistic and ADHD and various other things. It's bizarre that color blindness, as an example, isn't, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's on the disability spectrum, and yet it is a major challenge, because if you can't tell the difference between green and red, that makes driving a little bit of a problem when it comes to which light you're going to follow. So, and this is where I find it fascinating when it comes to what areas it comes down to where people have a bit of knowledge and understanding, and therefore it makes it easier to communicate. But unless there's an interest in crossing that bridge, then that makes it a lot harder. So what do you think we can do moving forward? What kind of things would you like to see in the future for more traffic across those bridges, so that people are able to understand and communicate much more fluently?
Well, you have speed awareness courses for drivers which disobey the speed limit. So one of the things that I would like to see happen in the nicest possible way, but I think it's needed, is a autism awareness course for people who bash and disregard and says it's something which is a disease of what? I don't know what it's
something that they haven't found a cure for yet. And
the cure is accepting it. That is the cure. It's staring you in the bloody face.
Absolutely. Sorry, but I know we've had some pretty hilarious conversations around this, and that's the other part is little things like communication and things like humor, where there's some sites that give a pretty strict guideline of an autistic person looks like this. They don't make eye contact. They can't understand your humor. They can't do this, and this. And they make this whole list. And I find it interesting that they don't have, it's almost like, the pros and cons list. And they have all the cons, but it's like, those are cons for the person who doesn't have the communication to be able to understand that way of communicating, but they don't have the pros list next to that. The immense genius that comes along with so many people that are on the spectrum that other people could only hope for that type of intelligence. So what are your thoughts on that, Joel? I'm also just going to have a quick peek at some of the things. I see lots of little comments and things coming through. from people. So if people have questions and they want to throw out there, please do. Oh, we've got Christina who just
if people say to me that there is no pros about being autistic, I would say, right, go in, look at the stuff in your house, look at every single electrical item in your house, go online and watch Bill Gates' TED Talk or whoever, and watch their eye contact. There isn't any. And then try and associate them with the things you're using, and you're going to come back and tell me, if you come back and tell me there's still no positives for autism, then we can't be friends.
I'm just seeing some of the comments which people are agreeing with you with hands down. It's not even a quest to or whether it's debatable or not. And I'm loving some of the comments that are coming through. And Joseph has also just said the best script is to be kind and love each other for all our awesomeness. Yeah. And I wanted to have a look over here, because on the colorblind side of things, I think Jessica has just dropped a comment in there. Wow, she's put in quite a bit. So I'm going to just have a read through this. And she says, I work in the software field and have a colorblind person in my department. I'm also visually impaired, and we use we used to both be consulted on any of the UI updates. After 2 mergers, we have to fight on everything just to be heard. The powers that have never considered inclusive design, and is very disappointing. Apparently, it's too much trouble for them. And this is one of the big challenges. And Jessica, thank you so much for sharing, because this I was speaking to an awesome friend and somebody that I've got to know through LinkedIn and local community, a guy called Chandesh, who's working on accessibility. And we were talking about that side of things, and how many businesses are just not geared up for accessibility for individuals who think differently. For the visually impaired, for the hearing impaired, people with autism, where some of the sites that are designed are just too busy, or they just, from a user experience, is quite horrific for a lot of minorities. But at the end of the day, it's isn't it about time that we're inclusive at a much greater extent than what we have been? I mean, we can get spaceships going to Mars, but we can't update our websites so that they accessible for the human on Earth. It's just like, seriously. So Jessica, thanks for sharing that, and definitely something that needs to be picked up on that respect. And we've got a few more comments coming through there. Thank you very much. So we'll come back to those in a few minutes. So Joel, talk to me more about when it comes to accessibility, as an example, for people with autism, or anybody, any minority. What are your thoughts on that right now, and what should be done? What would you like to see done?
Well, I'd like to see what everyone else would like to see, I'm sure. And once I say what I'm about to say, I think you'll agree with me as well. And your head will be bobbing up and down like a dog on the dashboard. But what I would like to see is no one going through the motions and ticking off boxes. None of that. Because you can do that till the cows come home, and then what? Once you tick off the boxes, what does that prove? It proves you are abiding by the law, certainly, but it doesn't prove you know anything.
This is a big can of worms. And the reason I say that is because my background in the security industry and health and safety and all those things, and I've seen, so many organizations where, like health and safety, people want to have that little emblem on their website that says, "Hey, we have a certification. We have met this standard," and that's great. Some organizations just preach it, but they don't follow it. I must say there are a lot of organizations that do really follow it well, but again, that's not as popular as it should be, and that's really frustrating. And this comes down to education, but also, I guess, what is not necessarily the minimum standard, but what is acceptable. And I guess the question is it acceptable to have a workplace or an environment or online platform that can't cater to a human being? Now, yes, I know there are some very difficult situations that make it extremely hard, and businesses have to be profitable, and initially it drives up the cost because it's unique to certain minorities potentially. But overall, if it becomes the minimum standard to recognize every single human being for their uniqueness, then surely that cost should be balanced across the board, and not seen as an additional cost. And there's so many conversations that can go around that, because at the end of the day, cost is important, but it's how that gets set up and how that goes. So, what are you thinking right now? Because I can see the cogs turning there, Joel.
Well, I think Jessica said it. Would you like to bring that up?
Which one?
The latest one?
The latest one. So let's go and show that. And then I want to go back to Christina's as well. Okay, so that is a company culture problem. Absolutely. People in psychologically, emotionally unsafe environments will not speak up. And that is true, 100%, which brings when things are wrong, and they will do the bare minimum to check the boxes to perform the work rather than digging in and really doing the job. And that's another big thing that work environments and the impacts that it has on individuals, whether you're autistic or any other challenge that you have that makes you different or unique in the world, that does have, and people don't realize this, does have psychological and emotional impacts on individuals as well as people. And that's both sides, the person with the challenge and the person without the challenge who's trying to understand and communicate that. And this is where, again, it comes to education and communication and enabling conversations that allow people to feel that they're in a safe space to be able to say, hey, actually, I need some more help in the environment, or I need my environment to be changed in some way. And I wanted to go back to, here we go. Christina's comments as well. People with missing limbs like her have a hard time getting jobs because they don't think we can perform accurately. And this is the part that I find incredible. Unless you're working on a conveyor belt where you're removing items and therefore you can only do half, so productivity is impacted, it doesn't mean you can't do 1,000 other things. I look at a really good friend of our family who extremely intelligent lady who unfortunately became a quadriplegic halfway through her life, and everybody had written her off as well, she'll never be able to work again, well, that's it, she's bedridden, and all kinds of things were said, and everybody obviously feels sorry for her. And I was chatting to her on LinkedIn recently, and ask her how she's doing, and she's been working at a company for I don't know how many years. Nobody knows that she is using voice activation technology and various bits of equipment to help her communicate. But on the other end of the computer, it's just perfectly normal, and nobody knows, that she has any limitations whatsoever. And she's just recently moved over to the UK, or back to the UK, should I say? And it just blows me away that we live in a world that has all this incredible tech, and yet we don't take advantage of that to be able to enable in all the situations that we possibly can. So clearly we still have a lot of learning, a lot of education, and a lot of growing to do on this planet before we move to Mars. So what are your thoughts on that, Joel?
Well, I mean, a lot of growing up is needed before moving anywhere. It's like going through the stages of school. You start off at kindergarten, you then go to high school, and then you go to college. And sadly, some people never grow up and think they're Peter Pan. But I've said this before in several of our episodes, Mike. I will say this again. You brought up technology and how wonderful it is. But aren't we all sort of in our own way technology, because all technology have brains. Well, yes, they do all have brains. Some are more developed than others, and but we're all programmed differently. And as soon as society gets skewed me for being very strong language here, but as soon as society gets it through their thick skull that we are all different and programmed differently and look the same on the outside and want the same as them, we can finally work together.
Absolutely. And a really odd, and forgive me about this, but a very odd example has just come to my brain. And I'm a very visual person. So, I'm just thinking back to about, what are we in now, 2022. So we're looking about 10, maybe 12 years ago. I got a call by... and one of my sales team, and they phoned me up and they said, Mac, these new printers that you've issued us are absolute rubbish. They don't work. I'm just not, I'm not going to be working with this piece of kit. And I'm just thinking, how often we do that with human beings that are wired differently, where we look at somebody, we can't try and, they're different to us, and we can't quite figure out how to get them to do things our way. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. Instead of figuring out how that individual actually works at an optimum level and plugging that into getting the best out of that resource, we try and make the item or the individual do something that is, it's like that old saying of a peg, of putting a square peg in a round hole kind of thing. And long story short, so the printer situation, and I said to this guy, I said, James, like, what seems the problem? We did all this, the typical what do you call it, IT kind of tick box exercise, going through all the troubleshooting. And I was like, hey, have you switched it on and off again? The normal IT saying. And he was, yeah, nothing's happening. So it's like, oh, okay. And he says, yeah, this wireless printer clearly doesn't work. And I went, and something dawned on me, and I went, and we'd tried everything. I mean, we'd like tried to connect his phone to it, his laptop, his daughter's laptop, the whole works. And so finally I went, when you say wireless, what is your understanding of wireless? And he went, well, it doesn't need cables. And I went, oh dear. I was like, so are you telling me there's no power cable plugged into the printer? And he went, well, it is wireless. And I was like, you are kidding me. And anyway, yes, today we have phones that have wireless charging, but you still have to put it onto the wireless pad. But at that stage, he couldn't fathom the fact that the wireless printing was from the laptop to the printer, not the power. He thought the power was wireless too. And that's how I kind of have a look at this communication gap that we have, whether it be an autistic person, somebody with ADHD, etc. It's just like, as a lot of women would probably say, it's like a typical male who gets given a object to build and has the manual and decides, I'll figure it out myself. And I've learned, read the bloody manual, because it'll just save you so much time. But I think I'm one of the few on that side of things. And if there are any other men watching, or anybody who has anything to do with tools, just tell me, do you ever read the manual? Yes or no in the comments. I'd love to know.
I do, but sometimes, only sometimes, because most of the time it's common sense.
This is the one thing that I've had so many conversations
especially if it's electrical. If it doesn't come with a battery holder, you need to plug it in.
So unfortunately, common sense can't be taught, or at least I don't believe it can be taught, because there are a lot of people that don't quite, even though they've done something over and over, they like choosing the harder way, should I say. But anyway, that's the human, I think the most complex device we have on this planet is the human being, because everything else tends to do what it's designed for, and then human beings decide to go and stretch the limits. Anyway,
going back to other abilities, Matt, before you continue.
Go for it.
Or disabilities, should I say? When you brought up the colorblind and accessibility in work, I was reminded briefly of an incredible musician, an incredible drummer of the 1970s and 50s, who is, I forget, blind or deaf. It's one or the other. Evelyn Glennie.
Okay.
She plays drums. She's blind. She's blind. She plays drums. She can't see. And everyone in the music industry who sings her praises. And it makes me think that if you can do that if you can sing people's praises for overcoming their stuff and continuing as if nothing has happened. Obviously, she needs to relearn everything. And why can't you do that with autistic people? Surely it's simpler.
I think it's just a different way of that it still just keeps coming down to education and having the right people in the right places that can facilitate that. Because you were just as you were talking about that, let me just double check what his is.
It's a female. Evelyn's a girl's name.
No. I want to tell you about somebody else. Here we go.
Tell me
Hope. Maybe if I look in the right place.
That might be helpful.
And I need to introduce you to him as well, because I think he'll be a great connection. As somebody I connected with through, ironically, through Frank Finesse, who introduced me to this wonderful person. His name's Alvin Law. I don't know if you've ever known or heard of Alvin, but he's an international speaker, incredible human being. And he has no arms, but he is an incredible drummer. If you look at some of the stories that he shares and the challenges that he's faced, and he just makes life look so easy. And then, there are other human beings like myself who, we've got all our limbs and then we still complain. It's,
I feel you can't be British if you don't complain.
Well, I think we don't want to open that can of worms, because both of us living on the British soil do not want to have us suddenly removed. Anyway, let's not go there. Although the UK has its own challenges this week, so let's not go there. Getting back to this, and we've gone a little bit off the topic from autism itself and the uniqueness, but I think it encapsulates the fact that every human being is unique, no matter what or what the color of our skin, our religion, our physical makeup. It's that that brain, the mind, and mindset that is incredibly powerful. And it's just finding out how to tap into that so that we can communicate with different individuals. And I think this is where patience is definitely needed. And also a few people that are willing to take the punches to get where it needs to be. If I look at what you've achieved over the last few months, Joel, and the conversations you're willing to have, there are so many things on that. There must be a lot of people from the autistic analysis division that are very upset with you right now because you're breaking some of the rules.
I'm sure they are unhappy. I'm sure that other people are unhappy, and the fact is that if they are unhappy, it means they know exactly what I'm doing. The saying goes, if no one hates what you're doing, then no one knows what you're doing, and if they hate you, then I'm glad they do, because then they know
somebody's
exactly
listening.
What I'm doing. Yes.
The thing is, if there are no complaints, then you're obviously not making enough noise, as I was previously told by one of my bosses. And I was like, hey, what do you mean? When you disrupt, there will be noise. And when you make a noise, there will be complaints. But when you listen to the noise that you make with those drums and that guitar, hey, I'm all for it. So, 100%. And Jacqueline's just mentioned, break all the rules, go against the status quo. Jacqueline, I don't know if you know this, but Joel put together, and I know we've mentioned this a few times.
She does know that.
Does she? Awesome. Okay, stuff. Awesome stuff. You know about Joel's Spotify playlist.
Yes,
and
it's now on 430 odd songs.
It's insane, and they're all handpicked by Joel. And not only that, I challenge anybody to go on a road trip that is at least an hour long and put that on, and not find yourself singing along, tapping along, feeling like you can take on the world afterwards, or even during. It is an inspirational playlist. So, it shows you how powerful music is, and why RockstarX is all about, making that difference with neurodiverse people, and using music as a method to get there, as well as any other opportunity that can empower the neurodiverse. So Joel, I'm just conscious of time. Wow, man. We definitely are pushing the edges, and I know on the next session you want to try and go a little bit longer, so it's all good.
And also that would also be in it. That's also in a different location. That means this banner will not be here.
Well, let's not give all the surprises away.
This banner won't be here, nor will this microphone. I don't really have a stand, so I can't really take it anywhere else. But all that I can say is that Mac will be joining me in person at that point. And if anything, if you take away anything from that final episode, it will be that there'll be no lag.
Well, we are hoping. So yeah, carry on.
And then the week after, I'm dragging Mac off again, back down to see the beautiful
coastline of Cornwall. Oh, we're not going to the beach. Okay.
Oh, you can go there
anyway.
if you want.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, everybody, I just want to thank every single one of you for dialing in, for listening, for watching, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please drop in the comments, what do you thought about this? What do you want to hear more of in the future? What kind of help, whether you're autistic or neurodiverse or whatever challenges you are facing and you feel are still making your workplace environment not as enabled as it should be, put that into the comments. Let's hear about those things, because unless they get spoken about, unfortunately, no action gets taken. And I know what that's like. I've been in work situations where, we've had a Tyrannosaurus Rex as a boss, and I was too scared to say anything. But it was only once we were able to step up and I was able to say something that things changed. And and then all of a sudden you find out that you're not the only one that has that challenge, and other people have been complaining too, but just afraid of being shot down. And we don't live in a time where any of us should be shot down. We should be lifted up and empowering each other. So thank you so much for watching tonight and listening. Do we have any final questions or comments? I'm just going to go and have a quick look. Jacqueline was saying the Foo Fighters, there goes my hero, is her go-to. Absolutely. If you haven't listened to the playlist, go and listen to it. Joel will drop the link. Thanks, Joel, into the comments. But if there's anything that you feel should be on there and isn't, put that in the comments too. But also share, what are those ballads or those songs that give you that powerful uplift and make the change in your day? Because who knows, maybe somebody needs to hear that today. And other than that, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for watching, listening to my monotone voice drone on, talk too much, and then Joel's clear and concise answers, because he is the genius that is RockstarX. And I look forward to watching this journey. And if you know anybody that has a similar mission to Joel, or you feel that you want to be part of this mission of empowering, neurodiverse people and, minorities, anybody that just needs to have their environment enabled, connect, send us a message, connect with Joel, connect with me, and let's see where a conversation may lead, because life's too short to sit there and wait for somebody else to do it. And, who knows? Maybe you're that next person who can make a difference, whether it be in your organization or potentially globally. Let's see where that goes. Joel, thank you very much. Any final words from you?
Those people who want to get in touch with us and join us on our journey cannot be normal. There is no this is where uniqueness and creativity meet imagination, not where normality meets its end. No. So anyone who wants to be extraordinary, hop on.
Whew, no pressure, Joel. Excellent stuff. Well, listen, folks, thank you so much, Joel. Always a pleasure, and I'm just loving the fact that you've grown so much through this process, and I know it's not far off. You're going to be doing your own LinkedIn Live soon, and I know you're going to be blowing people away, because Joel's done a lot of work in the background over here, putting our little stings for the video intros and outros, and he's just having a lot of fun with this process. And he's a digital guru. So watch out for the space, and definitely get hold of him if you live in the Northwest London area, as an example, and you're looking for drum or guitar lessons. Personally, unfortunately, he doesn't have that much, with building RockstarX, he's not going to have a lot of time to take on too many personal clients one-to-one, but he will be doing some online stuff as well. So definitely reach out to him, or who knows, maybe you're sitting somewhere across the globe and you wanting to learn and do that on Zoom or any other platform. Connect with this man. He is a genius. And if he can teach me how to play the guitar, he can teach anyone. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a great evening.
He did.